Good morning. My name is Russell with Russell Does Stuff. This is my YouTube channel. I started it over a month ago, uh, about a month before my season started. This was something I planned on doing with an employee that I had working for me. But I decided to take this journey on my own and share my experiences with everybody out there in YouTube land, and hope that you guys can find value from my experiences. I like to do stuff. I'm always doing stuff. I don't sit still. I'm always outside. Very rarely am I in the house sitting on the couch. I cook outside. My wife knows that I'd prefer to be outside. You know, when I was in a tent, I enjoyed it. My television was the sky, and I liked the noises of the animals and the bushes rustling at night and stuff. You know, my daughter said to my wife, "Make sure he buys a house because he wants to live in a tent." So I have a nice tent. I have like one for emergencies, and then I bought a really nice one that looks like something you'd see on the Discovery Channel out in the desert. It's got plenty of room for the dogs. So, all right, to the video. How to buy a used business. I have experience in this area. How to buy a used business. Well, the internet helps out an awful lot in providing leads for purchasing a used business. Okay, I've purchased one, two businesses on the internet: aluminum business and a lawn service. I did use the internet to buy accounts, which was chunks of someone else's business where they were wanting to wind down, but they still wanted to be in the business. I bought big chunks of their business. Okay. Sometimes I had some money and sometimes I didn't. Okay. The aluminum business I bought that was used off the internet, I had to sell my vehicle in order to come up with a down payment. Now, this guy didn't want a down payment at first. He wanted the whole amount. So I had to build trust, had to have some meetings with him, if he called, I had to answer the phone. You know, I didn't make him leave a message. I didn't have him call me back 5 times. You know, I'm right there, bam. That business changed my life. And the recession that we had changed my life. Okay. The business is still in operation today. Okay. And that story I talked about in a past video. I purchased a lawn service off the internet, off Facebook Marketplace. So I went through Facebook Marketplace every single day when I got home. I grabbed a beer, grabbed some paper, and grabbed a pen, and I went through all the businesses for sale. Businesses that I knew I could add to mine or were a right fit for me. And I came across a few. And I make phone calls to the owner. Hey, what's going on? And I shut up and listen. Why do they want to sell their business? You know, I didn't know enough about buying businesses on the internet at that particular time in my life, because people are wanting to sell you their headache. Okay. Remember, this is a used business, like a used car. It's going to have issues. Are you having cash flow problems? Are you having employee problems? Are you having health problems? You need to figure all this stuff out. And then you got to find out if it's really something you want, how you can buy it. All right. You could save up money to buy a business, but you don't really know how much money you're going to need when you come across that opportunity. You could save up $10,000 and the guy wants $60,000, you know. So the one business that cash flowed over $9,000, I waited him out for at least 3 months. I stayed in touch with him. You know, hey, this is Russell Does Stuff. Just checking in with you. Hope you're having a great day. Interested in your business. If you got nobody else interested in it, I'm your guy. You know, he wanted the whole amount for his business so he could leave town with a whole bunch of cash. And I knew that. So you need a little bit of luck too. You know, I'm not the only one that he was negotiating with concerning the sale of his business, and I knew that. He had offered it to the guy he had bought it off of originally. Okay. So the guy he bought it off of didn't want to buy it back. He wanted to take it back when he left town. And he did some of that. I was a victim of some of that. Okay. The guy didn't disclose any of that when we negotiated our deal. In that particular situation, I didn't have my employees calling him during the day and saying, hey, how much you want for that broken down business? I'll give you X amount of dollars for it. You know, I didn't do any of that stuff with that particular situation. When you want something bad enough, you'll figure out a way to get it. So time came where this person had to leave town. Okay. He had nobody wanting to buy his business. And I convinced him, I'll give you $4,500 down, and then I'll pay you the rest over 6 months or whatever it was. He had to think about it, and eventually he had no choice, so he had to sell to me. Okay. I kept all the income that first month, and the second month, and the third month, and the fourth month. So I'm making $5,000 a month or so, and the extra work more, off a $4,500 down payment. Okay. Same thing with the aluminum business. I think that was cash flowing at first around $10,000, $12,000 a month. The guy had ramped his business down due to age and health problems and some situations that happened in his personal life. So I had to build that business back up. But it was cash flowing. So that $4,500 I gave him, I got back right away. Okay. I got equipment, I got vehicles, I got horrible employees, you know. I got the whole thing. So I find that it is easier to buy a used business than it is to buy or start up a brand new business. Okay. They've already gone through the headaches of getting customers and you know, equipment and having, you know, processes in place and stuff. When I bought accounts, I used the same strategy. I waited the person out, you know, and then I was their only option. You know, you call 5 people a month that are selling their business or accounts, you're going to get one of them. All right. I think it took me 6 months of looking or more before I found that one guy with the one business I bought off of him. So you need to do your heart, put your time in. I put my time in. Okay. When I bought some accounts off of some companies that didn't want to be in a certain area, or they wanted to sell all their bad customers, or they wanted to scale down, I'd have my employees call them during the day from their cell phones, and hey man, you want what for these accounts? Yeah, you're dreaming, and that worked a couple times, okay, but then it can backfire on you, you know. I bought accounts that this one guy didn't want anymore, and the reason was none of the customers liked him. He destroyed his relationship with his customers. He wasn't showing up. He was doing poor work and stuff like that, and I didn't know that. So I had a learning curve. I need to be wiser and carefuler when I purchase accounts. Now, when you purchase accounts, the guy's not going to give you all their addresses and their phone numbers and go, here, go talk to all of them. You're kind of going into the situation in the dark, So try to get as much information out of them as you can. How often are you going? Or do they all like you? Maybe there's a clause where if he fibs, he gives you some money back. I have a contract attorney, okay, who helps me in situations like that. So if their good faith, their goodwill is not a reality, I can go back and pursue them, okay. I've had to do it a couple times. And normally a letter will get it done. But in most days, if an attorney sends somebody a letter, that person's laughing, all right? Because they know that it's going to cost me, $10,000 to go after them for some lies about the goodwill I purchased from them. So when you buy a used business from somebody, you come up with a plan, like the sales process. What's your threshold? What are you willing to pay for this? What kind of terms do you think? Have all this stuff mapped out in your mind first, okay, and then go for it. Build trust with that person. I tried to buy a guy's business, I don't know, 7 years ago. And he wanted X amount of dollars for it. I'm glad I didn't buy it because all his customers were under one property management company, and they were firing him. And he was trying to sell his business before he got fired so he could leave town with a bunch of money. And he wanted the whole amount, and I didn't want to give him the whole amount because I wasn't comfortable with his chit-chat he was having with me. So he wasn't very nice to me. He called me a little boy and all this other stuff for not giving him, offering him the whole amount for his business. And I keep an eye on these people, A year or two later, he's out of business. Well, actually, he was out of business 3 or 4 months after I told him I wasn't interested in buying his business because the property management company he worked for went in another direction. So I saved myself from a disastrous, horrendous situation there with my money. He didn't disclose that. Well, customer I work for is not happy with what I'm doing and stuff and things, but he was trying to bully me into buying his business, and that was a red flag for me. So what I was saying about keeping an eye on or driving by, I knew where he lived, and he was on my route, and his lawn equipment and trailer and stuff, a year after that or more, has been sitting on the side of his house. He hasn't been in business. He lost it, and all his equipment's sitting. So that was a situation that I went through. Now I've tried to buy a whole bunch of other businesses that I'm not going to bore you with here on this video, that didn't get into any negotiations. I was totally shut down right on the first phone call. Nope, I want $90,000, and that's what it is. When I know that they're firm like that, I move along. Okay, I may keep track of it in the saved column in Facebook Marketplace just to see what happens. There was a company in Englewood, Florida, that he was selling that business, and it came with Kentucky Fried Chickens and dentist's office and stuff like that. And he had been in an accident and had a back injury or something, and he didn't disclose any of that stuff to me. I was interested in buying that business, but after a few phone calls and dealing with him, the guy was a rock. He didn't want to wheel and deal. So I think he ended up selling a few accounts and ended up losing the whole business altogether. So I do not buy businesses from brokers. Okay, you can learn about businesses for sale through brokers. Okay, interested in buying a business in North Carolina, I go to the broker websites and I see who's selling what. Okay, contracts with brokers expire. I can call the business owner because you can figure out where the business is and stuff like that off the broker pages. Okay, brokers want a fee. Normally they want all the money up front because they're working on the behalf of their customer. Okay, so sometimes there's room to negotiate in those situations, and most of the time there's not. Okay, there's a restaurant in next to Blairsville, up in the mountains, and they want like $1.4 million for it, and it's been listed in a brokerage firm for 2 years now. Okay, they're never going to sell that business unless they're willing to negotiate with somebody. A little money down, let the business pay for itself. If the business is doing what it's supposed to be doing, then there should be no problem. They're going to get their money one way or another. They just want it all at one time. You got to skin a cat sometimes when you want something. You wanted a bicycle when you were a kid. You skinned a cat to go figure out how to get it. You were washing cars. You were doing all sorts of stuff. I didn't know of anybody back when I was 5 years old willing to sell me a bicycle on terms. But one thing I've found out in my lifetime is not a lot of people have 10 grand on them. Not a lot of people have 20 grand on them. So if you have that kind of money on you, you can convince somebody to take a down payment on a cash flowing business. Okay? And I've done that. I have proof that I've done that. I wouldn't be sitting in this chair right now Friday morning talking to you guys if I hadn't have done it. Okay? It's possible. Well, this is Russell with Russell Does Stuff. And if you like this kind of stuff and you're inspired by it, entertained by it, inspired to move to action, I'd appreciate the like and subscribe if you want. I think it's stopped raining enough to where I can bring out my investment that I made. I'm going to try again tomorrow to do that, and I want to shoot a video about something stupid I did or something great that I did. Well, this is Russell, and I will catch you on the next one.